of 2018, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced a refocused vision for the social media giant, writing, "One of our big focus areas for 2018 is making sure the time we all spend on Facebook is time well spent." Well, these practical changes that Facebook is implementing work toward this vision, but they're also going to have an impact on us, those of us who do ministry on this platform. And so on this episode of the MyCom Church Marketing Podcast, we're going to walk you through what's changing and offer some ideas about how to adapt to these changes. Thank you to everybody for listening. My name is Dan Wunderlich. I'm a United Methodist pastor, and my co-host is our Methodist marketing guru, Darby Jones. Darby, how are you today?
Doing great, Dan.
Well, I like to start off each episode by asking Darby a question, and my question for you today is, what is one of the most frustrating parts of social media for you, in your opinion?
I'd have to say the Facebook algorithm just hasn't figured me out. I like to research opposing views to my worldview, so I'll click on several articles that my friends post, and then all of a sudden Facebook thinks that's my worldview and starts suggesting all these things that I really don't want to see. So I tend to stick to my own subscriptions, and the content that I go to is much more interesting than what Facebook can suggest to me. And just the polarization too is, for every one great constructive debate, I see 10 that are really just mean. And so yeah, more and more I'm sticking to my subscriptions versus the content on Facebook.
Yeah, I hear you. And you know, whether or not you or I or the listeners share the same pain points for social media, I'm sure that we've all had those moments where we just want to delete our accounts and walk away. And of course, what makes that hard for us is that we use Facebook as a tool for ministry. And so really, it is part of our job to be there and to be present on these platforms. And when you read a little bit more into the statement from Mark Zuckerberg, it seems like he understands this. It seems that he understands that people are at a point of frustration and that there is a challenge sometimes to the experience of Facebook. And so let's go ahead and share a little bit more about what Mark wrote in his post to kick off this year. And we'll have a link to this post and a few other primary sources for you to review in the show notes. But this is what Mark Zuckerberg wrote on his Facebook page about these changes. He said, "We built Facebook to help people stay connected and bring us closer together with the people that matter to us. That's why we've always put friends and family at the core of the experience. Research shows that strengthening our relationships improves our well-being and happiness. But recently, we've gotten feedback from our community that public content, posts from businesses, brands, and media is crowding out the personal moments that lead us to connect more with each other. We feel a responsibility to make sure our services aren't just fun to use, but also good for people's well-being. So we've studied this trend carefully by looking at the academic research and by doing our own research with leading experts at universities. The research shows that when we use social media to connect with people we care about, it can be good for our well-being. We can feel more connected and less lonely, and that correlates with long-term measures of happiness and health. On the other hand, passively reading articles or watching videos, even if they're entertaining or informative, may not be as good. Based on this, we're making a major change to how we build Facebook. I'm changing the goal I give our product teams from focusing on helping you find relevant content to helping you have more meaningful social interactions." Darby, is there anything in that statement from Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg that really stands out to you?
Yeah, when he talked about what brings us happiness, I think it's more long-term goals and things that really make us content. And if your aim in life is to be happy, then yeah, these short little clickbaity videos that give you short dopamine hits and cause addictive personalities and cause children to have attention deficit disorder, then yeah, those little things will make you happy in the short term. But what really brings us fulfillment in life are the long-term goal relationships. You know, how about eternity? How about that as a goal? So we really need to focus on these types of goals. And I think Zuckerberg is onto something here, and I really hope it works out.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And in fact, in 2017, there were quite a few former Facebook employees and designers and people who were there early on who are starting to express maybe some regret for some of the work that they did. I saw an article with the guy that invented the like button, and he just feels terrible because he realizes that it feeds into our addictive personalities, and he actually installed a plugin to his web browser that removes the likes from all the Facebook posts, so he has no way of seeing all those likes and those little dopamine hits. As someone that uses Facebook for ministry, the thing that really stood out to me was there at the end where he says, I'm changing the goal that I give our teams. And the previous goal was helping users find relevant content. And that is really what we as churches and we as ministries have been counting on Facebook to do. We see it as an outreach tool, and we see it as a way to make connections in our community. And so we've been counting on Facebook to show our stuff to people for whom it might be relevant. But he's saying now we're changing that goal away from that, away from the way that we've used Facebook before, and toward meaningful social interactions. And as we'll get into later, meaningful social interactions aren't always that common on our church Facebook pages. And if we're unable to generate those, then we're going to be out of step with Facebook. And so let's, Darby, let's walk through the history of using Facebook to reach people. Can you remember when you joined Facebook, Darby?
10 years ago, I would say.
Yeah, I think Facebook's been around for about 11 years now, so you would have been really early on. I was a student at the University of Florida, and I remember when Facebook was released campus by campus. And I want to say UF was one of the early schools, and you had to have a .edu email address to join, and we were on there early, and then eventually Facebook expanded and it opened up to everybody. And I don't know if you remember early on, do you remember the time when Facebook was just profiles? There were no pages, and if you wanted to organize, you had to use groups, and then people would sometimes change their Facebook profile pictures to advertise some event or something that they were. Do you remember the early attempts at marketing on Facebook?
Yeah, I remember a lot of companies, their first and last names would be like their names of their company, and they try all these crazy ways to skirt around the Facebook rules and regulations.
Yeah. Early on in college campus ministry, we would ask our students to donate their Facebook profile picture. So we'd have a major event like a Welcome Week event or Easter Sunday, and we would give them a graphic to put as their profile picture because that was really one of the easiest ways to get word out. Well, in 2007, Facebook launched Pages, and that allowed these companies to basically to go legit, right? You could turn a personal profile into a business page, and so businesses and celebrities and organizations, institutions suddenly had a home base on Facebook, and that's when a lot of churches abandoned their groups and turned to Pages. And at that time, early on, if you clicked to like a page, if you said you wanted to follow a page, it basically meant that I would like to see the content that this page is publishing, and at least early on, for the most part, that was true. Fast forward about 7 years, we're now in 2014, which is not that much far back from where we are today. Facebook has grown, exploded into the monster that it is today, and people who were using Facebook for marketing and outreach and ministry noticed a decline in organic reach. And organic reach is one of those social media terms that you really should understand, and it's basically how many people see your posts for free. So if you post a video and it says 200 people watched it, your organic reach would be 200. And then, of course, on Facebook, you have the chance to pay a little bit of money to boost a post, or you can use a post as an advertisement, and that's paid reach as opposed to organic reach. So organic reach is how many people see your stuff for free. And in 2014, the groundswell started to get kind of loud that organic reach was noticeably declining. And so in that year, 2014, Facebook responded and said, look, basically, there is too much content on Facebook. When you log in or when you open the app, we have all of the posts that all of your friends, all of your family, all of the pages that you follow, everything that they've posted since the last time you were here, plus all of the ads that we've sold for people who want to reach folks like yourself. We have all of this content, and there's too much of it. And so if we can't show you everything, we're going to try to decide what you're most interested in. And instead of doing that manually, because that would be impossible, they designed what's called the Facebook algorithm. And it's basically a computer program or a formula that tries to decide what is going to be most interesting to you. And so when Darby opens up his Facebook app, a computer has decided which posts from the recent past are going to be most interesting to Darby. And when I open up Facebook, it's going to try to decide what recent posts are most interesting to me. And so we're going to have a different yet customized experience for Facebook. Well, fast forward 2 years later, 2016, just in the first half of the year, the people who study these things said that there was a 42% decline in organic reach. And then the numbers are just now in for 2017, and organic reach declined another 20%. Basically, there has been a steady decline in the number of people who see your stuff for free on Facebook. And this is all because of the algorithm, and it's all because of the quantity of content that is available to be shown to you when you sign in. And Facebook is constantly tweaking the algorithm. They're always fine-tuning and reshuffling priorities. Perhaps you recall a few years ago, Facebook really began to emphasize video. And so you saw more and more video in your newsfeed. Well, at that time, video basically got an artificial bump in organic reach. And then sometimes the tweaks are trying to end the gaming of the system. Perhaps you also remember a few years back the clickbait. It'd be like, Darby came home from work and his children looked at him with tears in their eyes. You won't believe what happened next. And then you would have to click a link to find out why Darby's kids were staring at him with tears in their eyes. And of course, we couldn't resist, and so we clicked and we went through, and little did you know, Darby had a whole bunch of ads loaded up on his page, so he got paid every time you clicked through to see why his children had tears in their eyes. And Darby, of course, they were tears of happiness, right?
Right.
So Facebook is constantly tweaking the algorithm to fine-tune things. And if we tried to do a Facebook-related podcast every time they change the algorithm, that would be all that this podcast is about. But the reason that we are breaking into your feed today to cover this is because the vice president in charge of the Newsfeed said in an interview that this is more than a tweak. This is a major change. So what is changing? Here's a list of things that we know are changing. Number one, they are prioritizing friends and family over pages. And so the number of slots available in someone's newsfeed used to have a certain balance of real people and then posts from businesses and brands and churches. Well, they are decreasing the number of slots for businesses and brands and churches and handing them over to friends and family. And so Facebook, probably so far this year, it's possible that it has felt more personalized for you and like you're seeing more and more real people. They're also trying to end the current way that people are gaming the system, and that is through engagement bait. Darby, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen someone post and then ask you specifically to like or comment or share there in the text of the post?
Oh, yeah. I see a lot of contests. You have to like or comment to get into the shuffle and be chosen to win some vacation. And I see a lot of clickbaity articles that take you to a page where you have to click next 100 times just to see all the content. And of course, they're racking up all the advertisement from that.
And the sad thing, too, is that this is actually a very effective tool for churches. And so I've seen a lot of churches use what's being categorized as engagement bait because there might be businesses that want to trick Darby into clicking off of the website and cycling through ads. But for us as churches, the way that we do this is we might post an advertisement for Easter Sunday and then say, share this post and tag someone you'd like to see in church on Easter Sunday. And so it was basically a way to call our people to action and to encourage them to use their Facebook profiles for evangelism, but specifically asking for likes or for comments or for shares, Facebook has decided is engagement bait, that it is a way of gaming the system, and they're now penalizing it. So fewer slots for businesses and organizations, and they're also now penalizing a technique that lots of churches like to use. Third, video is losing its built-in algorithmic advantage. And so how we talked about a few years ago, video was all that you saw, and Facebook artificially inflated the organic reach for video. That is coming back down. And so if you have relied on video as a strategy, it will continue to be effective because video captures people's attention more often, but you will see a decline in the reach of your videos. Next, link to external content like news or blogs or other sites. There's been a lot of concern in the publishing industry. NPR and some other news organizations are just realizing that their ability to reach people on Facebook is going to be dramatically lowered. And if you are a church that uses blogs for content, if you are a church that likes to post links to try to just share what's going on or to educate people about things, links to external content are going to be shown less often. And then finally, And then finally, they are prioritizing posts that inspire conversation and interaction. And in an interview, the VP of the Newsfeed specifically said that that means comments and shares, and specifically shares through Facebook Messenger, are going to be weighted higher than just likes or other engagements. So the little reactions, the heart, the laughing face, the crying face, the angry face. And so if you are a church that maybe gets no engagement at all, or just a lot of likes but no comments or shares, you are going to be affected heavily by this change. Likely you are going to see a further drop in your organic reach, and how much depends on whether or not your posts inspire the kind of engagement that Facebook wants to see. Like we said, they're going to be weighting more heavy comments and shares through Facebook Messenger. In an interview with Wired, the VP of the Newsfeed said that longer comments are even going to be weighted over shorter comments. So another common thing that you see in churches is that occasionally we'll throw in a post just for fun and say, do you like coffee or tea? And we know that that's an easy thing. It's a low pressure thing. There's no fear or shame for expressing your point of view. And so asking, are you a coffee person or a tea person, might be an easy way to get someone to respond. But pretty much all they're going to comment is coffee or tea. But those are the kind of short throwaway interactions and engagements that Facebook is trying to sort of depress or weed out of the Facebook system. And now, Darby, the interesting thing is this is hopefully a change that is going to improve the experience for us as individuals, but it's going to make our work as ministers and people in ministry on Facebook harder. How are you feeling about these changes?
I'm pretty excited about it. I think it'll encourage people to ask more meaningful questions and get away from the yes-no questions. And I think it'll be a good change.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because there seems to be two extremes in the reactions to this news. There are people that have basically said the era of Facebook as a marketing tool, the era of Facebook as a ministry tool is over. Just forget about it. You're never going to be able to reach anybody again unless you've got a massive ad budget. It's going to get expensive to do the kind of ministry we've been doing. Or there's people like Darby who are excited because they're the kind of people that realize that Facebook was never meant to be a bulletin board. You know, a lot of us as churches, we have used Facebook as just another way to pump out announcements. But announcements have never been what ministry is all about. It's been about building community and forming disciples. And so what should you do as someone who is involved in ministry on Facebook? The first thing is a great rule of thumb, no matter what, but especially when Facebook makes a big change like this, pay attention to what Facebook says that it values and do that. And so Facebook has said specifically they are valuing comments and conversations and shares over likes and other reactions. And so when you're crafting a post, you need to ask yourself, will this post inspire conversation? Can I see a way that people can interact with each other? And if you can't, it's probably better not to post that thing because the more that you post a post that doesn't inspire engagement, it's only going to penalize your page further. There's sort of a momentum factor to Facebook. The more that you do what Facebook is asking for, the greater your organic reach. The less you do what Facebook is asking for, your reach will continue to slow down. And so you want to be building momentum with everything that you post. And so if you've got a weekly kind of maybe feature on your Facebook page, like posting a PDF of the bulletin, and it just never inspires any likes, any comments, any shares, people just click through to grab the resource, it's probably better to find a different avenue for those kinds of posts because those things are going to pull back on the momentum of your Facebook page and it's going to penalize the reach on your Facebook page. And it's far more important to post better content than to post more content. So you want to study your analytics and the insights of your Facebook page. If you go to your Facebook page and you're an admin or an editor, you can see a link at the top there that says Insights. And there in your Insights, you are able to see some demographics about the people who like your page. You can see when they're online, but more importantly, further down the page or in a tab called Posts, you can see a listing of all of the posts there on Facebook. And then it tells you you how many people engaged with it, how many likes, how many comments, how many shares. And it would be a good idea now at this point to take an afternoon or maybe just an hour and to scroll back through as many posts as you have the patience for and sort of grade your Facebook posts, grade the engagement rate of your post. And Brady Shear from Pro Church Tools recommends a formula: engagement divided by reach. And so, if you have 20 likes and it's reached 200 people, you would divide 20 by 200, and that would give you a score for your post. And obviously, the higher the score, the better the kind of post. And so you want to score your posts, see what's working, see what's not working, do more of what's working, and do less of what's not working. This can be a tedious process, but it can really give you an idea of what has been successful. Darby, what have you seen successful for United Methodist Communications on Facebook?
I'm not in charge of the social media side of things, but a lot of times I'll see them ask questions like, what are your favorite Charles Wesley hymns? And we just get a ton of people responding. Anything related to United Methodist history always gets a ton of comments and shares. United Methodists really love their background. And so anytime you start talking about United Methodist structure or history, the connection and the mission work we do around the world, that tends to get a great response.
That's a perfect example of knowing your audience. You want to post the things that your people are going to engage with, and that's where that scorecard, that scoring method can really help you figure that out. Because maybe in your local context, United Methodist doctrine or your favorite Charles Wesley hymn won't work, but that certainly does work for the official United Methodist profiles. Darby, we have quite a few articles on MyCom that we've released through the newsletter and are available on our website, things that help teach us how to be more engaging and how to ask the right kinds of questions. Would you talk us through some of the articles that you think our audience should check out?
Yeah, so to help get more engagement, we have several articles, just a few come to mind. One called Drop the Bullhorn and Engage Your Community in Conversation. So it just talks about how you need to talk to people about their lives and stop dropping so many announcements about events that are coming up in your church and really get to know the people in your community. And to do that, we have another article called Stop Talking and Start Listening to Your Community. So before we start talking, we need to listen and survey our community to see what they need, or more important, what they can offer the church and community, and then build your ministry around those strengths that the community has told you that they can offer. Some others that come to mind: common elements in viral videos. We talk about how churches can, for a low budget, really make great content by learning some of these viral elements, like piggybacking on trending topics. So looking at what everybody's talking about on Facebook and Twitter. You can either, even Google trending topics today and writing a post or creating a video or blog and offer a spiritual critique to, some of the darker things. The world really needs a Christian's perspective on some of these controversial topics. So we'll include some of those links in the show notes, and I'd be happy for you to check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the key takeaways encased in these articles and in the principles that we've talked about, well, I think probably number one is that if you haven't already, we need to stop treating Facebook as a bulletin board. Facebook is not broadcast media. It's called social media for a reason. And of course, we've been able to sort of game the system and use Facebook as a bullhorn or as broadcast media, but they really are trying to find a way to make it more about communities and about connections. The second thing is that we need to ask ourselves how our posts will inspire conversation. And that's a question I brought up earlier in the episode, but this is such a critical one moving forward. How will this post generate conversation? Will the conversation be meaningful? Is it something that people can go back and forth on? And if it can't, then maybe it's time to rework the post or decide not to post it. This is going to take some getting used to. It's going to take extra time. But again, it's far more important to produce and post good content than to post a lot of content. Some other things that I've seen discussed in in conversations around these changes, and certainly things that I think are super important. Take advantage of the Facebook tools that already naturally have a higher engagement. One of those tools is Facebook Live. Now, you may be using Facebook Live to stream your worship services. That seems to be one of the most common uses for Facebook Live amongst churches, and that's a great thing to do. Obviously, make sure that you have all of the right licenses for streaming music or projecting lyrics, things like that, but that's a discussion for another time. But Facebook Live can be for more than just broadcasting an event. You can use Facebook Live to create a regular kind of post. So for example, maybe instead of writing a short paragraph about a Bible story and then asking a question, write that paragraph, have the question ready, but then read it over Facebook Live. Make it an interactive experience. Go ahead and broadcast. You can access Facebook Live from your phone or now from your desktop. You can go live and share about that Bible story. Or maybe if you're the pastor or you're a staff or volunteer person who has access to the pastor, maybe in the middle of the week you sit down and do a Facebook Live session where you ask the pastor to explain what the previous Sunday's sermon was about in a couple of sentences, or what are some things that the pastor would like to expand on. Or you can do a Q&A. What questions did you have coming out of the weekend, and what ways are you encountering God this week? You can also do Facebook Live sessions that are prayer sessions. You can come on at a set time each week and ask people for prayer requests and then pray for them there in the moment. Live video naturally offers a higher level of engagement. We can take advantage of it. And then when we were talking about the history of Facebook, way back before Pages, when it was just profiles, the way that we organized ourselves in ministry, at least in the ministry circles I was in, was by using groups. And then when Pages came about, a lot of us ditched our groups. And even up through last year, there were blog posts about how it's time for churches to delete their Facebook groups. Well, guess what? In the middle of last year, Facebook decided to relaunch their focus on groups. And this was maybe sort of a weather vane pointing us in the direction that Facebook is now heading with this commitment to community. Facebook groups are now getting a natural bump in engagement. And so if you never deleted your Facebook group, but you've been thinking about it, don't do it. It's time to recommit yourself to it. And if you did delete your Facebook group a year ago or 5 years ago, now's the time to resurrect those things. And we do have a MyCom article coming soon about how to use Facebook groups as a tool for ministry and discipleship. They can be a really great pair with your Facebook page. You can use your Facebook page as a tool for outreach. You can use your Facebook group as a way to build community. So Facebook Live and Facebook groups are two tools from Facebook that already naturally have higher engagement, and those are things to certainly consider using if you're not doing it already. And then, of course, we need to start budgeting for Facebook advertising and post boosting if you're not doing that already. You don't have to budget a ton of money. You don't have to throw $50 or $100 behind a post. You can just throw $1 or $2 to a post that seems to be successful. Or if you have a really important announcement that you want to get out, maybe you need to boost it so that it reaches more people. And certainly around seasons like Easter or Christmas Eve or the back to school season, when you have a special event coming up and you want to make sure that people in your community know about it, they hear about it, they get invited to it, that's a good time to spend some advertising dollars. And there are some articles about Facebook advertising on MyCom. And then a couple more practical tips. Engagement bait is being penalized when you write into the post, share this and tag a friend. Well, they'll never know if you ask people to do that in person. So it's time to take some of our online strategy and put it in the offline world again. One of my colleagues in the church communications world, their church has a large choir. And so about once a month, she'll show up to choir practice and she'll have a Facebook post ready. She'll share it from the Facebook page, and then she'll ask the choir just 2 minutes out of rehearsal to pull their phones out and to share or to like or to comment on a post. And it gets a massive boost in engagement, and it's a way to get things out. So you can strategically use offline gatherings, and you can use your bulletin, you can use your email newsletter to draw people's attention to a Facebook post that you'd like to be boosted. And another tactic that I've seen a lot of people discussing is creating a social media team of volunteers. And we're not talking about people to actually create create and write content or to shoot video and to shoot photos. We're talking about a team of people whose job it is to just like and comment and share pretty much every time the church posts. You can maybe get everybody together on a Facebook Messenger message, and then every time you post from the church page, you can let them know that there's something new out there. If we're able to organize offline, we can then use this organization online to help increase the engagement. And this really is, we need to start seeing Facebook as a tool for ministry itself and not simply a tool for getting people to your ministry. Facebook can be a platform where we build community, not just invite people to our community. Are any of these tips or tactics things that you think, Darby, would be easy for churches to implement?
I think churches are naturally focused locally, and they already have a lot of the strengths needed to adapt to these new changes. So I think it's going to be a challenge for some churches, but I think if they really just tap into their niche, and really focus on what they should have been focused on, then they'll do all right.
I think that's so great. I feel a little bit of guilt and a little bit of, good kind of a condemnation, even though you had a positive tone there, Darby. I think I feel guilty when I spend my time trying to figure out, the intricacies of this algorithm rather than focusing on the people in my community. And I think if there's one misstep that we as church communicators can make when it comes to Facebook ministry is we put all of our focus on the Facebook part and not on community. And so if we use things like Facebook Live or groups, or if we take the time to craft better content, maybe post less often, but post more content and try to think, what kind of conversations do we as a community want to be having online? What kind of questions can I ask that will help people become better disciples? What kinds of conversations can we be hosting online that even non-Christians would want to be a part of? If we can begin to answer these questions, then we can do that thing that I said where we will allow Facebook to be a place for ministry and not just an invitation to our ministry. And now, listeners, we want to hear from you. What types of posts or content generate the most engagement for you on social media? Can you recall a time when you had a meaningful conversation on your church's Facebook page? Well, we'd love to hear about it. Email us at podcast@umcom.org, and we just might share your story on a future episode. And you can, of course, use that email, podcast@umcom.org, to send us any feedback or topic suggestions you have for the show. We'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you found this podcast to be helpful and you'd like to make sure that other church communicators like yourself find this resource, the two biggest things you can do are share this episode with your friends and colleagues and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or on whatever service you're listening to us on right now. Thank you again for listening to the MyCom Church Marketing Podcast.